Jai Sri Ram. Today, the 12th day of Ramayana recitation of Ramayana Masam. Yesterday, we saw how Prabhu Ram, Sita Devi, and brother Lakshman has been venturing into the forest, and they have been meeting various sages and taking their blessings. And this continued, and 10 years passed likewise. Further, their exile continues, and they continue to venture deep into the forest going southwards. Let's see. Dandaka forest was the northern frontier of domain of Ravana, the king of Lanka. He had posted his cousins Khara and Dushana to be in charge of that cantonment. Their sister Surpanaga took advantage of the camp and freely rambled in that forest. She was fairly advanced in age and rather ugly in appearance, but lust was rampant in her. During a morning stroll, Shurpanaka chanced to sight the splendid, beautiful Rama and Lakshmana. Her lust was roused up forthwith. Though, in the garb of aesthetics, the demoness found the virile youths living with an angel like young woman. That gave her the clue to hatch her passionate design. She inquired as to who they were. Rama answered courteously, giving the details about himself, Sita and Lakshmana. He also gave the reason for his presence in the forest. In turn, he desired to know who that visitor was. Shurpanaga announced who she was and desired that Rama abandon the loathsome and lean Sita and choose her to be his wife. They would then delightfully range the Dandaka forest. With a broad smile on the face, Rama put it to her that he had his spouse and that she might extend her proposal to Lakshmana, who was single. The less pecked demoness then courted the younger brother, paying no heed to decorum. But his rebuff was, I am but his younger brother, attending to him as a servant. The paragon of beauty that you are, court him again. You are likely to win this hand. The infatuated intruder mistook the derision for praise. She further hit upon a plan to make her offer effective. If she did away with that slim creature of Sita, her claim on Rama would become paramount. So she pounced on her with a fatal design. But Lakshmana was quick enough to grasp the gravity of the situation. He sprang on the sinister Shurpanaka and snipped off her nose and ears instead of killing her in defense of Sita. As the wounded woman was screaming in agony and hastening back to her quarters, the shrill reverberation in the forest was fading away. Shurpanaka related her heart-rending tale to Khara. Two brothers, together with a woman, had prangused in the forest. It was because of that woman that the domiciled sister of Khara was molested and mutilated. This is what was her claim. In revenge, she would have then slain and would drink their blood. Khara got infuriated over the mishap. He ordered 14 of his trained followers go and slay the impudent intruders. Escorted by Shurpanaka, they hastened to the scene of accident and assailed the offenders. Rama remonstrated with them about the woman's misbehavior. He advised the demons to return in peace, but they proved themselves heedless. When action became necessary, he exterminated them, leaving the culprit woman to herself. She flew again to Khara and related the fate of her able fighters. Khara became enraged. He called his brother Dushana and Captain Trisira to take arms. The huge army marched under their leadership. Rama apprehended danger. He asked Lakshmana to take Sita into a cave nearby and protect her. Bow in hand, he stood valiant. Wave after wave of demon forces charged against Rama from all directions. But like moths perishing in a blazing flame, the onrushing host were being slain by the shafts ceaselessly darting from Rama's bow. Along with the multitude Dushasana fall slain. Trishira also meet the same fate. Lastly, a duel ensures between Khara and Rama. This last demon alone is doomed to death. A miracle is noticed in Rama's action. Atomic energy, which is inert, scorches the earth and exterminates all life, whereas Psychic weapons symbolized as Rama's arrow weed out the unwanted evil elements only which are found harmful to the society. So the weapons which were used by Prabhu Ram were basically to destroy the evil elements and not the innocent ones. And that's the difference. We have our we have our gods who carry weapons, but these weapons were always to destroy the negative energy which come into existence like a demon or Rakshasa. And these are found in every yuga. In earlier yuga, those Rakshasas were seen, where we were able to identify them. But with the advent of Kali Yuga, the Rakshasa is engulfed in our own body and he or she looks very much like a human being. So it's very difficult to identify in Kali Yuga where Maya has more power to mislead you. Akampana was the solitary soldier who escaped annihilation at the hands of Rama. He speeded on to Lanka, sought audience of the king Ravana, and hesitatingly accosted, "The Janasthan at Dandaka is completely destroyed." He hesitated because it is dangerous to on oneself to carry bad news to tyrants. Because one who carries the bad news ends up being killed. That's how these evil forces work. Ravana flared up and was at the point of striking him dead. Akampana trembled and begged that he would relate the tragedy if protection to him was assured. "Who are the gods that dare to destroy my domain? I shall go and do away with them just now," shouted the demon king. "Lord, gods dread you. The aggressor is Rama, the son of Dashrata. With his angel like wife Sita and warrior brother Lakshmana, he is encamped at Panchavati. This Rama has single handedly killed the 14,000 soldiers of Janasthana. He has also slain Khara, Dushana, and Trisira. The cantonment is gone root and branch. So Rama has uprooted all the evil forces which were ruling the Dandaka forest on behalf of Ravana. "I shall trample these worms of men to death and return," wrote Ravana with rose and rose enraged. Akampana pacified him and explained in detail the strength and courage of Rama. There was only one way of vanquishing him. He was inordinately fond of his wife, the last word on beauty. If she was somehow stolen away, the man would die of dotage. Giving battle would prove futile. The tyrant Ravana was a slave to lust. When that weak point in him was kindled, he started admiring Akampana's wisdom. The loss of Khara and his horse was nothing compared to the prospects of gaining one more beautiful wife. The lusty Ravana. We call him Brahmana, but he was never a Brahman. A Brahman is one, a Brahman is one who understands, who knows the supreme truth. But here, he read all the Vedas. He had good knowledge of the scriptures, but he forgot or he ignored the essence that there is nothing more bigger or powerful than the Supreme Almighty, the Supreme Person, the Supreme Godhead. He started believing that he had control over all the universe. But he was mortal. It was foolish of him to think about it. And he was about to start a fight with Lord Rama, the very personification of Bhagwan, of the Supreme Almighty, of the Supreme Person on earth in Treta Yuga. So here Ravana was getting into a big dangerous mode in his life by taking up the fight against Bhagwan Ram. But then the birth of Bhagwan Ram was also to ensure that such evil forces who continues to rule our earth are taken to task, are destroyed. And for that, from time to time, Bhagwan Vishnu has been taking his avatar in various yuga. Ravana flew northwards in his flying chariot to dwelling of Maricha, who received him with due honor. Now, this was the demon who was in the habit of defiling the yajna of Vishwamitra and who was thrown into the mid sea by the arrow of the then lad Rama. Since then, he had become reformed. He thanked Ravana, his king, for condescending to come to him. He submitted, he was at the disposal of his king. Ravana viewed Maricha as his confident friend. So he related the carnage perpetrated by Rama to his Janasthana at Dandaka. In revenge of this atrocity, he had plotted to steal away Sita. Maricha was requested to play his part by assuming the form of beautiful deer and enticing Rama and Lakshmana away from their abode. So this is the game plan which Ravana had designed to see that Rama and Lakshmana would be away from Sita and then he could go and kidnap her. This was the plan which he plotted and he took the help of Maricha. Maricha was fully aware of Rama's prowess, so he dissuaded Ravana from his suicidal enterprise. He had already tasted defeat in the hands of Rama. He knew he was God himself. Some foe in the guise of a friend had ill advised him to resort to this seemingly easy course. It was like putting the fingers into the mouth of sleeping cobra to pull out his fang. Ravana had many beautiful wives and a vast empire to enjoy. He was advised to be contented with them. The advice was well received and he returned to Lanka and resumed his the advice was well received and he returned to Lanka and resumed his regime. Within a few days, the disfigured Shurpanaga presented herself at the court of Ravana and poured out her pitiful plight. The crafty woman twisted facts to suit her evil design. Eloquently, she described the ethereal charm and loveliness of Sita. In her opinion, that heavenly woman was worth of sharing Ravana's bed and of none else. When Shurpanaka tried to carry her off as a prize to her affectionate brother, the monarch of Lanka, Lakshmana, sprang like an arrow and chopped off her nose and ears. Brother Khara and his valiant army poured in to punish the offender. But Rama, the husband of Sita, did all alone the whole lot to the death. It was Ravana's duty to avenge the destruction of his cantonment at Dandaka, to regain the honor of the race and to humiliate Rama. All this could be achieved at a stroke if Ravana somehow carried away Sita, the source of joy to Rama. This was absolutely lust. The evil force of Ravana. He could not think anything which he learned. He was total waste of all the scriptures which he had by hearted without knowing the essence. Ravana abruptly dissolved his council of ministers. He sat by himself and cogitated instead of consulting the ministers of this public issue. The fact was that the lust in him was artfully roused to his height. He resumed the same plot now irrevocably. Now that after listening to Shurpanaga, he was like he could not stop himself from going ahead with his plan. Somehow Sita should be stolen and Rama be fooled. That was the foolish thinking of Ravana. Burning with passion, Ravana flew again in his chariot to Maricha, who, though surprised at the king's quick revisit, received him with loyal reverence. It was his king, so he was doing his duty. Ravana reintroduced his sinister plot with additional points in support of it. His skillful statement was, I am in a dilemma now. My sister Surpanaka has been mutilated, disfigured, and disgraced by Rama. He has killed my brothers Khara, Dushana, and Trishira. He has destroyed my army at Dandaka. This Rama is worthless prince, banished by his father for some crime. He is roaming in the forest with his wife Sita. He is dressed like an ascetic, but he indulges in sense pleasures. He embodies adharma. I am no king of Lanka if I do not avenge the wrongs he has done to my sisters and our race. It is my duty to humiliate and punish his Rama. I decided to carry away his wife. Your help is needed in this plan. I beseech your help. This is how it should be done. Casting spell on all eyes, you should assume the form of golden deer with silver spots. In that form, you frolic and frisk about the abode of Sita. She is bound to ask her husband to catch the deer for her. You manage to draw the brothers far away. While they are pursuing the deer, I shall carry off Sita, who is left alone. The loss of wife will make Rama languish. I shall then kill him and avenge the harm done to us. This was the evil Ravana, good for nothing. He blamed Rama for all what he had lost, little understanding that all this loss was because he and his sister were part of adharmic actions. Now, the dirty thoughts of Ravana is getting manifested into action. But yes, we have full faith in Bhagwan Ram and Lakshman. They are in exile. They are facing tough times, more tough times for them. But then Bhagwan will find way to ensure dharma is restored. With this, I come to an end of today's narration. Hopefully, I shall be able to come back tomorrow and continue Ramayana. Jai Shri Ram.